When I was in space, it didn't smell like anything. Oh, really? So how do you know what burnt steak smells like? I have no idea what burnt steak smells like. I've never smelled it. I've never even seen a cow. What does it smell like? It smells like burnt hair and burnt flesh. God. We had some really interesting smells on the International Space Station. We had a lot of different experiments that were happening at the same time. And so there was always this kind of mixture of smells, but it was always very subtle because everything is contained in its own little compartment or its own suit. You don't really get exposed to it. But there was one experiment that was happening in one of the modules that was literally growing bacteria. And that was the only time that we actually had a smell in space that was not part of our own human contamination. So that was the only time we actually had an outside smell in space. It was literally like dirty socks. That was the smell of space. But here on Earth, space smells like burnt steak and welding fumes. Really? Yeah, really. If you think about it, burnt steak is kind of like welding fumes. It's kind of a similar smell. I've never welded before. I have no idea what that smells like, but apparently it smells like burnt meat. So when you go into a spaceship, that's the first thing you smell. You can smell it in the air. Yeah, and the reason why it's in the air is because it's coming from the suits. The suits are made out of a very special material. They're called Teflon-coated Nomex. And when they're manufactured here on Earth, they have to use these chemicals to coat the Teflon on the Nomex. And so that creates these fumes. And those fumes, when they're in the manufacturing facility, they actually bubble up and float all the way to the ceiling, and then they re-sucked out through these big ducts. I don't know where they go. I don't know what they do with them. But those fumes never, ever leave the manufacturing facility. Or at least they're not supposed to, because if they did, we would smell it in space, and we would know that something was wrong. The suits are supposed to be 100% pure and clean and sterile when they get to the launch pad. But sometimes, just sometimes, if the wind is just right, you can catch a whiff of it in space. You can catch a whiff of the Earth. And it's usually right after a suit has been worked on, or a repair has been done. You can literally smell the Earth from inside the spaceship. It's amazing.